Alan Matthews sat quietly at the back of the vast chamber. His chair was smaller than those of the other representatives. The air felt too cold, as it always did. The alien species who ran the Galactic Council preferred lower temperatures. For 5 hours, the debate had gone nowhere. The Varaxians, with their blue-scaled skin, pounded their speaking platforms. They wanted exclusive rights to mine the rich asteroids in the Orion cluster. The Felicians, tall and thin with 4 arms, insisted those same asteroids belonged to them by ancient claim. Alan watched as neither side listened to the other. This was how the Council had operated for all 50 years that humans had been members. Lots of talking, little action, no progress. If war comes, the Varaxian Empire will not be responsible, hissed Ambassador Kirks, his neck frills expanding in anger. Your threats mean nothing, replied the Felician delegate. Our claim predates your species' discovery of fire. Alan looked down at his notes on his tablet. Humanity had mapped a solution weeks ago. The Orion cluster had enough resources for both species if they used the mining techniques developed on Earth's Mars colony. Humans had offered this solution 3 times. Each time, they were ignored. Beside him, his aide Samantha Rivera leaned closer. Should I remind them of our proposals, sir? She whispered. Alan shook his head. Let me try one more time. He pressed the button requesting permission to speak. As usual, his request was placed at the bottom of the queue, behind species who had been in space thousands of years longer than humans. 2 more hours passed. The ancient Zethka, with their stone-like skin and slow, deep voices, announced they would abstain from voting on measures to save dying worlds. The Lixari complained about trade routes. The Juconi demanded more seats on the Defense Committee. Finally, Alan's speaking light turned green. He stood, straightening his formal blue uniform with the Earth emblem. If I may address the mining dispute, he began. Earth has developed a harmonious extraction method that would allow both the Varaxians and Felicians to. The junior species will refrain from commentary until senior members have concluded their deliberations, interrupted High Counselor Zex Thran of the Kelturi Empire. His voice boomed through the chamber, his 6 eyes not even looking in Alan's direction. The chamber fell silent. This was nothing new. For 50 years, humanity had been called primitive, junior, and newcomer. Human votes counted half as much as founding species. Human technology was used without credit. Human diplomatic solutions were stolen and presented by older species as their own ideas. Something changed in Alan's face. Samantha saw it immediately. After 7 years as Earth's ambassador, something had finally broken inside him. Without a word, Alan closed his tablet. He unpinned his official council badge from his chest. He placed it carefully on his seat. Then he looked at Samantha and gave a small nod. Alan Matthews turned and walked toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the suddenly quiet chamber. Ambassador Matthews called out one of the more friendly species, the Endari representative. The session is not concluded. Alan didn't turn around. He continued walking, his back straight, his pace unhurried. The massive doors opened automatically as he approached. The light from the hallway framed his human silhouette for a moment. Then he was gone. Whispers erupted across the chamber as Samantha gathered their materials. A typical human emotional display, sniffed High Counselor Zex Thran. They'll be back tomorrow, begging forgiveness, added the Varaxian. But deep in the ancient eyes of the Zethka representative, there was something like worry. He had lived long enough to recognize a turning point when he saw one. Samantha paused at the door and turned to face the council. Humanity has contributed solutions to every major crisis for 5 decades. We have been patient. We have been respectful. But we will not be dismissed forever. She stepped through the doorway, leaving a council chamber in disarray, not yet understanding that everything had just changed. 3 weeks passed. The news of Alan Matthews walking out of the Galactic Council spread across Earth and its colonies. People watched the video clips over and over. Some cheered, some worried about what would happen next. In the Oval Office of the White House, President Diane Calloway stood by the window. Outside, reporters waited for her announcement. She held a tablet with the final draft of her speech. "Are we certain about this path?" she asked the room of advisors. Alan Matthews nodded. 50 years is long enough to try things their way, Madam President." Diane took a deep breath and walked out to the podium set up in the United Nations Plaza in New York. Representatives from all Earth nations sat before her. Cameras broadcast her image to every human settlement from Mars to Europa to the mining colonies in the asteroid belt. "Today, Earth makes a difficult but necessary decision," she began. Her voice was calm but firm. "After half a century of membership in the Galactic Council, humanity is formally withdrawing from that body." Murmurs spread through the crowd. "For 50 years, we have offered our ideas, our technology, and our friendship to the galaxy. For 50 years, we have been treated as lesser beings. Our votes count for half. Our ideas are stolen without credit. Our people are seated at the back of the chamber." She paused, looking directly into the cameras. "Humanity will chart its own path among the stars. We will trade with those who treat us as equals. We will defend what is ours. We will explore the galaxy on our own terms." On the moon, in the control room of the Lunar Observatory, Director Jack Harrison watched alien communication channels. The observatory's special equipment could pick up transmissions from across the galaxy. He could see how different species reacted to Earth's announcement. His deputy, Nicole Porter, pointed to one screen showing the Kelturi High Council. "They're laughing," she said. "They think we're just angry and will come back soon." Jack looked at another screen where the ancient Zethka were having an emergency meeting. They didn't seem to be laughing. "Some of them understand," he said quietly. Nicole shook her head. "They don't understand what they're about to lose." Jack nodded. "They will." Back on Earth, President Calloway finished her speech. "This is not a decision made in anger, though we have cause. This is not a door closing, but a new one opening. Any species who wishes to deal with humanity as equals will find our hands extended in friendship." When she finished, the Earth Security Council met in a special session. They approved new plans for defending human space without council protection. Engineers started work on upgrading the human fleet. Scientists who had been holding back their best discoveries now shared them freely with other humans. In his apartment in Washington, Alan Matthews watched the stars through his window. His communication device blinked with messages from alien contacts. Some mocked humanity's decision. Some threatened consequences. A few, a very few, expressed quiet support. Alan ignored them all. For the first time in 7 years, he slept peacefully. Far away on the Council homeworld, the Galactic Council held an emergency session about the human situation. They debated for hours about how to punish Earth for its disrespect. "We should ban all trade with human worlds," suggested one species. "We should restrict their travel rights," said another. The Zethka representative, oldest of them all, finally spoke. "Perhaps," he said slowly, his ancient voice rumbling, "we should consider what made them leave." His words were ignored as the debate continued. No one noticed that 3 other species representatives were unusually quiet, watching and thinking about their own frustrations with the Council. The first cracks had appeared in the foundation of galactic power. They would only grow wider in the days to come. 6 months passed since Earth walked away from the Galactic Council. At first, not much seemed to change. Trade ships still moved between stars. Diplomats still sent messages. The galaxy continued to spin. Then problems began to appear. On the Nelvari homeworld, transport ships sat idle in spaceports. Their engines wouldn't start. For years, human engineers had quietly fixed design flaws in Nelvari drive systems. The Nelvari had never given humans credit for these fixes. Now, with no humans to help, more ships broke down each day. "Can't you just call Earth and ask for help?" asked a Nelvari ship captain. "They want us to sign a new treaty," said a Nelvari official. "One that says humans invented these fixes. The Council won't allow it." "Then how do we fix our ships?" asked the captain. The official had no answer. Far away, on a medical station orbiting Proxima Centauri, Dr. Benjamin Walsh looked through his microscope. 3 alien visitors watched him nervously. They came from different council species, but they all suffered from the same disease. A strange protein was breaking down in their bodies. "We can solve this," Ben told them, looking up from his work. "Earth's biological sciences can treat this condition." The tallest alien stepped forward. "The council said we shouldn't come here, but our people are dying." Ben closed his notebook. "We'll help you, but things have changed. We want a full partnership with proper credit for our work. The days of humans doing the work while others take the credit are over." The aliens looked at each other. Then they nodded. "We agree to your terms." On Jupiter's largest moon, Kyle Reeves walked through the factory where workers built the famous quantum fold drives. These engines let ships travel faster than ever before. Kyle had invented the drive 10 years ago. The council had taken his design and given credit to an older species. Now Kyle stood before his workers with an announcement. "Starting today, we no longer sell or license our drives to council worlds," he said. "We only work with those who respect human innovation." One worker raised her hand. "Won't this hurt our business?" Kyle smiled. 3 non-council species have already signed new deals with us. Fair deals. They'd value what we make. News traveled slowly through the galaxy, but it traveled. One by one, council species discovered how much they had relied on humans. Food production methods, medical treatments, engine repairs, communication systems. In big and small ways, humans had been solving problems across the stars. Now those solutions stopped coming. In a luxury office on Earth, Ambassador Alan Matthews met with representatives from the Endari, a mid-level council species. "The council says we shouldn't talk to you directly," said the Endari diplomat. "Yet here you are," Alan noted. The Endari's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "We need the new water filtration system your scientists developed. Our colony worlds are facing shortages." Alan pushed a tablet across the table. "This is our offer. Direct trade between our worlds, cultural exchanges, fair prices, and full acknowledgement of human contributions." "The council would see this as betrayal," said the Endari. "The council doesn't need to know," replied Alan, "unless you tell them." After a long pause, the Endari signed the agreement. This scene repeated across Earth as more species came quietly seeking help. Each left with new agreements. Each kept these deals secret from the council. On the council homeworld, High Counselor Zex Thran called an emergency meeting. "Transport costs have risen 30%, he announced. "Medical supplies are running low on 4 worlds. Agricultural production is down." "What's causing these problems?" asked a council member. "It must be human sabotage," said another. The Zethka representative shook his ancient head. "It is not sabotage. It is absence. We never valued what humans gave us. Now we feel its loss." The council chamber fell silent as his words sank in. Outside, the first transport ship from a council world slipped quietly away, heading for Earth, seeking solutions that the council could no longer provide. 1 year had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. The great meeting chamber, once filled with representatives from 32 spacefaring species, now showed many empty seats. More than a third of the council members were missing. They had not left officially. They simply stopped coming to meetings. High Counselor Zex Thran banged his ceremonial staff on the floor. "Where is the Endari representative? This is the 5th session they have missed." An aide leaned close to Zex Thran. "Reports say they are on Earth, High Counselor." "Earth?" Zex Thran's 6 eyes blinked in surprise. "What business do they have there?" The aide hesitated. "They are signing treaties with the humans." Zex Thran's blue skin darkened with anger. "That is forbidden. All diplomatic contact with other species must go through the council." But his words echoed in a half-empty chamber. Too many seats were vacant. Too many species had found reasons to be elsewhere. Near the Arcturus star system, on a small space station, Ambassador Lisa Winters welcomed visitors from the Mendari Federation. The Mendari were bird-like beings who had been council members for over 1,000 years. "Welcome to Arcturus Station," said Lisa. "I hope your journey was comfortable." The Mendari ambassador bowed his feathered head. "It was most efficient in our new ship. The human-designed engines cut our travel time in half." Lisa smiled. "Shall we begin? I have the trade agreements ready for review." Inside a private meeting room, they spread digital maps across the table. These showed shipping routes, mining zones, and defense boundaries. In 3 short meetings, they completed agreements that would have taken decades to approve through council channels. "We have accomplished more here than in 30 years at the council," said the Mendari ambassador as he signed the final document. "That's because we focus on solutions, not status," replied Lisa. Meanwhile, back in council space, problems grew worse. The complex regulations that had kept order were breaking down. Human legal experts had long patched the loopholes that powerful species exploited. Without these experts, the rules became easy to break. The Kelturi Empire, once held in check by trading restrictions, began to expand its territory. They seized shipping lanes and demanded payment from smaller species who used them. "This is illegal under council law," protested the representative of a small world. "Then ask the council to stop us," replied the Kelturi commander, knowing the council had no power to do so. On Earth, President Diane Calloway met with her advisors. Reports from across the galaxy showed the council was weakening while Earth grew stronger. 10 more species have approached us for direct treaties this month," said Alan Matthews. "They see which way the stars are turning." "What about the remaining council loyalists?" asked Diane. "They're stubborn," Alan replied. "But even they are feeling the pressure. Their economies are struggling without access to human innovations." Diane looked out the window at the night sky. "We never wanted to hurt them. We just wanted to be treated fairly." "They had 50 years to learn that lesson," said Alan. "Now they're learning it the hard way." In deep space, aboard a merchant vessel, Captain Greg Peterson received an urgent message. His ship carried medical supplies to a non-council world. "Captain, we're being approached by a Kelturi warship. They demand we pay a toll to pass through this sector." Greg checked his star charts. "This isn't Kelturi space. It's open territory under council law." The Kelturi say council law doesn't matter anymore. Without human peacekeepers, they control this zone now. Greg made a quick decision. Send a message to Earth Defense Command. Then change course to the alternative route we planned. The Kelturi aren't the only ones who can adapt to the new galaxy. As his ship turned away from danger, Greg knew that the old rules were falling apart. Power was shifting. The galaxy was changing, all because humanity had finally stood up for itself. And this was just the beginning. 2 years after humanity walked away, the Galactic Council faced its biggest crisis yet. The chamber was tense as the Palaxian representative stood to speak. The Palaxians were one of the oldest and most respected species in the galaxy. After careful thought, the Palaxian Confederation formally withdraws from the Galactic Council, announced the tall, silver-skinned diplomat. Gasps and shouts filled the chamber. This was different from species simply not attending meetings. This was an official withdrawal. "You cannot leave," shouted High Counselors Exfran. "The Council has stood for 10,000 years." The Palaxian representative looked around calmly. "We cannot remain in a body that values politics over progress." With dignity, the Palaxian removed his official council badge, placed it on his seat, and walked out, just as Alan Matthews had done 2 years before. Within months, more species followed. The Endari Collective announced their withdrawal next. Then came the Vox hegemony. Each departing species released similar statements. Each mentioned new partnerships with Earth and its colonies. On Mars Colony, Governor Ryan Collins walked through a massive construction site. Workers from a dozen species built a huge circular building with a transparent dome roof. This will be the largest diplomatic complex in human space, Ryan told visiting journalists. Representatives from all our partner species will meet here as equals. A reporter asked, "How is this different from the council chamber?" Ryan pointed to the circular design of the meeting room. "Look closely. Every seat is the same size. Every position has the same view. We call it the circle over the pyramid. That's the difference between our approach and theirs. No one sits at the back, and no one sits at the top." Across the galaxy, humans worked with their new allies. Merchant ships traveled new routes. Scientists shared discoveries. Defense fleets patrolled together to protect shared interests. Far from Earth, in what was still called Council space, the remaining Council species faced growing problems. Without human legal experts, trade disputes turned into armed conflicts. Without human engineers, transportation networks broke down. The ancient enemies, the Zethka and Vorans, moved toward war over territory in the Sagittarius Arm. Human diplomats had kept peace between them for decades. Now battle fleets gathered at their borders. In secret meetings, some council leaders began to worry. "Perhaps we should approach the humans about returning," suggested one. "Never," said High Counselor Zex Thran. "We do not beg junior species for help." But privately, even Zex Thran knew things were getting worse. Reports showed that species who partnered with humans were growing stronger. Their economies improved. Their technology advanced. Their people were happier. Meanwhile, loyal council worlds struggled. Food shortages appeared on some planets. Medical systems failed on others. Ships waited months for repairs. On a neutral trading station, two merchant captains met for drinks. One came from a council world, the other from a human allied planet. "How are things in council space?" asked the human allied captain. The council captain looked down at his drink. "Not good. Basic supplies are getting expensive. Travel between systems takes longer. The council spends all its time arguing, and none of it solving problems." "You could join us," said the other captain. "Earth's alliance welcomes anyone who treats others fairly. The council says humans want to rule a galaxy." The captain from the human alliance laughed. "Have you met humans? They don't want to rule anything. They just want everyone to work together as equals." As they talked, more ships arrived at the station. Most came from human allied worlds. Their crews had credits to spend. Their cargo holds carried valuable goods. They moved with purpose and energy. The council captain watched them and made a decision. When he returned to his ship, he set course not for his original council destination, but for Earth. He wasn't the first to make this choice. He wouldn't be the last. The fracturing of the old order continued. One ship, one person, one species at a time. 3 years had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. Things were now desperate for the remaining council members. Without human technology and diplomacy, old conflicts grew worse. The Zethka and Vorans, ancient enemies kept apart by human-designed peace treaties, prepared for war. Their battle fleets gathered near the rich worlds of the Sagittarius Arm. In a closed meeting room, High Counselor Zex Thran faced the truth he had avoided for years. "We need the humans back," he admitted to his advisors. Their faces showed shock at his words. "Prepare my ship. I will go to Earth myself." The Kelturi flagship, an impressive vessel covered in gold and blue decorations, arrived in Earth orbit 1 week later. Earth's defense ships watched it carefully but allowed it to approach. News cameras captured the arrival of High Counselor Zex Thran and his delegation. They expected to land at the main government building in Washington. Instead, they were directed to a small meeting facility outside the city. Secretary of State Maria Doyle waited for them. She was a practical woman who had once worked as a ship engineer before entering politics. Zex Thran noticed immediately that no red carpet welcomed him. No band played. No important officials lined up to greet him. Just Maria, 2 aides, and a simple conference room. "High Counselor," said Maria with a polite nod. "Welcome to Earth." Zex Thran tried to hide his disappointment at the simple welcome. Thank you for receiving us. We have important matters to discuss. Inside the conference room, Zex Thran explained the Council's offer. We are prepared to offer humans full membership status and 3 seats on the High Council, he said, clearly expecting gratitude. Maria reviewed the proposal on her tablet. And what makes you think we still want that? She asked. We've moved on. Half the galaxy has moved on with us. Zex Thran's 6 eyes blinked rapidly. But this is the Galactic Council, the greatest power in the galaxy for 10,000 years. Maria set down her tablet. Not anymore. You're now just one of several major alliances. The Interstellar Cooperative already includes 24 species, with Earth as a founding member, but not a dominant one. Interstellar Cooperative. Zex Thran had never heard this name. Our new alliance, explained Maria, based on equal representation and practical solutions. No ancient status hierarchies, no senior and junior members, just partners working together. Zex Thran tried another approach. The Zethka and Vorans will destroy each other without council intervention. Millions could die. We've already spoken to both species, said Maria. They're sending representatives to Mars next month to discuss joining the cooperative. They'd rather work with us than keep fighting each other. The meeting lasted less than an hour. Zex Thran left with nothing he had come for. As his ship lifted from Earth, it passed dozens of vessels from former council worlds arriving for the first major summit of the Interstellar Cooperative. From the window of his ship, Zex Thran watched Earth grow smaller. For the first time in his long life, he felt truly afraid. Not because humans were a threat, but because they had created something better than the Council, and everyone could see it. Back on Earth, Maria Doyle reported to President Diane Calloway about the meeting. How did he take it? Asked Diane. He looked shocked, Maria said. He really thought we'd jump at the chance to rejoin them. The old powers always think that way, said Diane. They believe their position is natural, not something they created and maintained. She looked at the latest reports from across the galaxy. 24 species now worked with humanity as equal partners. Their combined territory extended through 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Trade flourished. New colonies grew. Research advanced faster than ever before. We never wanted to replace the Council, Diane said quietly. We just wanted respect. Sometimes, said Maria, the best revenge is building something better. Outside, the sun set on Washington, D.C. Up in the darkening sky. The first stars became visible. Among them were worlds where, for the first time in thousands of years, a new kind of galactic community was taking shape. 5 years after humanity's departure, the galaxy looked very different. The once mighty Galactic Council still existed, but had shrunk to just 11 species, mostly the oldest and most tradition-bound civilizations. They controlled less than a third of their former territory and influence. Meanwhile, the Interstellar Cooperative headquartered on Earth's moon had grown to include 27 species. Humanity was a founding member, but not a dominant one. All members had equal status and voice. On the bridge of the Earth Defense Force ship Orion, Commander Eric Weber studied the star map. His officers included beings from 16 different species, all working together with an efficiency the Council had never achieved. Pirates reported in Sector 7, said his first officer, a Palaxian named Varix. They've been raiding supply ships bound for the new colony on Proxima IV. Eric nodded. Set course for Sector 7. Alert the Mendari and Indari patrol ships to meet us there. The Orion was the most advanced ship in the cooperative fleet. Its engines, designed by human engineers, but improved with technology from 5 other species, could travel faster than any Council vessel. Its weapons combined the best ideas from across the cooperative. As the ship moved through space, Eric thought about how much had changed. The area they now patrolled had once been Council space, but the Council could no longer protect these trade routes, so the cooperative had stepped in. The difference, Eric explained to his new Palaxian lieutenant, is that we built this alliance on what works, not who deserves respect, because they reached the stars first. The young lieutenant nodded. On my homeworld, they teach children about the great change now. How humans showed us all a better way to work together. We just wanted to be treated fairly, Eric said. Everything else followed from that. The ship's sensors detected 3 pirate vessels ahead. Once these pirates had worked for the Kelturi Empire, attacking ships from smaller worlds while the Council looked away. Now they were simply outlaws, preying on anyone they could. All hands to battle stations, ordered Eric. Coordinate targeting with our ally ships. The battle was brief. The cooperative ships moved in perfect formation, cutting off the pirates' escape routes. 2 pirate ships surrendered immediately. The third tried to run but was quickly disabled. No casualties on either side, reported the tactical officer. The colony ships are safe. Eric smiled. That's how we do things in the cooperative. Protect the innocent. Minimize harm. Work together. Meanwhile, on distant worlds that the Council had never bothered to develop, human and allied colonists built new societies. On the planet New Dawn, a city rose from the previously empty plains. Its buildings combined architectural styles from a dozen worlds. Its schools taught children from many species. In the council chamber, now small and quiet compared to its former glory, the remaining members debated what to do about their shrinking influence. We should build bigger warships, suggested one. Show the galaxy our power. We should increase taxes on our remaining worlds, said another. Fund new technologies. The Zethka representative, oldest of them all, shook his stone-like head. You still do not understand. The humans succeeded not by being stronger, but by being fairer, not by taking more, but by sharing freely. Back on the Orion, Commander Eric received a message from Cooperative Headquarters. Another former Council world had applied to join their alliance. This one had been among the founding members of the Council 10,000 years ago. Things change, Eric told his crew as they set course for home. Sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly, but they always change. As their ship traveled through the stars, settlements and outposts of the new alliance glowed on their navigation screens. Worlds that had never mattered to the Council now flourished under the care of the Cooperative. The old order was fading. A new one was taking its place. And it had all begun because humanity decided its dignity was worth more than its seat at someone else's table. A decade had passed since Alan Matthews walked out of the Galactic Council chamber. 10 years since humanity decided its dignity was non-negotiable. In that time, the galaxy had transformed. Today, in the grand meeting hall on Earth's moon, representatives from 36 species gathered in the circular chamber. The room was designed so every seat had the same view. Every voice carried the same weight. This was the heart of the Interstellar Cooperative. Ambassador Olivia Chen took her place among the delegates. As the successor to Alan Matthews, she carried on his legacy of quiet strength. Today would mark a historic moment in galactic history. The session is open, announced the current chairperson, a Mendari representative. On the main display, a formal message appeared. It came from the homeworld of the Kelturi Empire. The Galactic Council, by unanimous vote of its remaining members, hereby announces its formal dissolution. Olivia read aloud. Each former Council species now requests admission to the Interstellar Cooperative as individual members rather than as a bloc. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The mighty Galactic Council, which had ruled the stars for 10,000 years, was no more. We will consider each application on its individual merits, said the chairperson, as we do with all applicants. When the vote came for the first former Council species, Olivia Chen raised her hand in approval. One by one, the former Council worlds were accepted as equal partners in the cooperative. Last to be considered was the Kelturi application. When their representative entered the chamber, many recognized him. It was Zex Thran, once the High Counselor of the most powerful organization in the galaxy. Now he was simply the representative of the Kelturi, taking the seat identical to all others in the circular chamber. After the session, Zex Thran approached Olivia in the hallway. "Ambassador Chen," he said, his voice lacking its former arrogance. "May I speak with you?" Olivia nodded. They walked together to a quiet viewing area overlooking the stark beauty of the lunar landscape, Earth hanging large and blue in the black sky. "We understand now," Zex Thran told her quietly. "Your species could have sought revenge for how we treated you. Instead, you built something better and invited us to join when we were ready." "That was always our goal," replied Olivia. "Not to tear down, but to build something that works for everyone." Zex Thran looked out at the stars. "The Kelturi have much to learn about true cooperation. We were leaders for so long, we forgot how to be partners." "Everyone has something to teach and something to learn," said Olivia. "That's the foundation of the cooperative." Across the galaxy, the effects of the change were visible on countless worlds. Civilizations that had stagnated under the Council's rigid hierarchy now flourished in the new order. Innovation accelerated as species combined their knowledge freely. Worlds that were once resource-poor discovered new potential through human ingenuity combined with alien perspective. On the colony world New Hope, human teacher Karen Adams watched children of a dozen species play together in the schoolyard. Inside, they would learn mathematics, science, art, and history, including the story that changed the galaxy. In her classroom, a timeline stretched across the wall. It marked the key events of recent galactic history. The day humanity joined the Council, the day Alan Matthews walked out, the formation of the cooperative, and today, the final dissolution of the Galactic Council. A young student with blue skin and 6 eyes, a Kelturi child, raised her hand. "Teacher, why did the humans leave the Council? Were they angry?" Karen smiled. "They weren't just angry. They were right. Sometimes you have to walk away from a table where you're not respected to build a better table where everyone is welcome." The child thought about this, then nodded. "I'm glad they did. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here with my friends." As the day ended and twin suns set on New Hope, ships from dozens of worlds moved peacefully through its skies. Each carried the same emblem, the circle of stars that represented the interstellar cooperative, a new order born because humanity had the courage to walk away from the old one. The galaxy would never be the same again.